Good evening, authorities, teachers, students, guests, and general audience. Welcome to the second edition of Speakers Lineup.
It's a pleasure to us to introduce you to Guillermo Hidalgo, an assessor on TC Televisión Internacional, and he is in charge of negotiations, sales strategies, and new businesses via OTT, web, and applications that will teach us new strategies to be a good negotiator and the importance of negotiation on lobbying in the media.
Before starting, let's hear some words of our teacher, Greta Cordova.
Welcome again. Thank you all for joining us. And it's a pleasure and honor for me to introduce Guillermo Hidalgo. I consider he my friend, and also he is a person in charge of many or couple of achieve a lot of negotiations that we consider impossible. I'm sure that you are going to enjoy this meeting. Welcome again.
We hope all of you learn a lot and have a great time. Remember to keep the biosecurity standards all the time during the conference. The conference will have 40 minutes, and then we'll have 15 minutes in order to make some questions. So if you have a question, please write it down and wait until the round of questions begins. Without further more, we'll leave you with Guillermo Hidalgo. Please give him a big round of applause.
I feel important. Is this on? Thanks for having me, guys. I'm going to change a little bit the whole thing. If you want to have anything to say, just raise your hand and I will answer your question. You don't have to wait till the end with me. I just want you to have fun. Try to live with me what I lived from the last 30 years of negotiation and my life on a plane. That's how I used to consider my life. That's why I quit Ecuavisa International a couple years ago, because I used to travel so much that I missed a lot of opportunities with my family, but that's another whole thing. First of all, I used to work in Ecuavisa International, as I just mentioned. If I go too fast, please raise your hand and I will repeat it again. I was the ex-CEO of Ecuavisa International. I founded 2006, 2005. We used to have 300,000 subscribers in the US. That was it when we began. By the end, when I quit my job, we had 5 to 6 million subscribers in the US. And when I say subscribers, I talk about households. I used to be the new media manager of the El Universo, and when I founded www.eluniverso.com, and I founded Radio City. And I'm coming back to Radio City by next week, hopefully with Greta too. I used to work for the Citibank. I hate it when I work for a bank, tell you guys the truth, but when you're young, you need to pay the bills. So let's begin with advertising. We go to some basics before we go to negotiation, so you understand where I'm coming from. And one more time, if you need me to explain something, just raise your hand. Advertising is a means of communication with the users of a product or service. Advertisements are message paid for by those who send them and are intended to inform or influence people who receive them. This is a definition by the Advertising Association of the UK. Types of advertising. And you're not going to believe this, but used to work for all of those things in one time of my life. Print advertising, El Universo. Direct mail, when you receive those mails to your Gmail or Hotmail or whatever that bother you so much, well, that's a type of advertising too. Television advertising, I did it for a long time in Ecuavisa and Ecuavisa International. Radio advertising, I have a show every day here in Ecuador. It calls Así Amaneció, where we interview presidents from around the world. We interview rock and roll stars, and I invite you to listen to us every morning, and you will see what radio advertising is. Podcast advertising, those are more advertising, is people who wants to put, for example, in a cooking podcast. So a brand who wants to be related with cooking would put advertising on podcast advertising. Mobile advertising, as you have a better deal of 30% off if you will call right now and give you a mobile new cellular phone in for your new price and plan, blah, blah, blah. It's MLM advertising. Social media advertising, you see it every day in your Instagram, in your Facebook, and everywhere. Paid search advertising. I'm going to look through Google for a word. When Google shows you the results, sometimes you see some advertising. Those advertisings are called search advertising. Native advertising. For example, you go to a web and you go to Ecuador.com, and you will show you some advertising from Ecuador. That's called native advertising because it has relationship with the web and the owner of the web. Then it says display advertising, those banners, huge banners that comes out in the Universo.com, Google, and whatever. Then we have outdoor advertising, all those ones that you see all around the streets, those big advertising, billboards, those outdoor advertising. Guerrilla advertising, this is an interesting one. Guerrilla advertising is where you do something in some kind of neighborhood with little money to spend, but you need to try to get that budget to do as much noise as you can with a little bit advertising, so you have to do a lot of research in the zone. Product placement advertising. Right now, the Sun is doing a product placement advertising next to me. You see next to me or in a TV commercial, in a TV program. Sometimes you see the Coca-Colas and that's a product placement advertising. Public service advertising. That's a non-profit organization that is doing advertising to do something good for the society. This right now is how much, this is a share of how much money in Ecuador is being spending this year compared to last year in advertising. We have Open TV, Ecuavisa, TC, RTS. Last year were 43 millions. This year they're going down 30%. We're talking about 30 millions. Paid TV, where I used to work. Those commercials that you see in TNT or HBO or Cinemax or any type of TV, paid TV channel, network. And why do you use so much compared to last year? Because most of that money went to El Canal del Fútbol because of the soccer national team, the playoffs, and everything that happened, it went all there, most of it. Radio, as you see, is stable, thanks God. Print is been going up. Why? Because last year in pandemia, people didn't buy the newspapers because they were not in the street. Now they're in the street, now they buy newspaper, it's going up again. Outdoor advertising, same principle. Why last year was so little compared to this year? Because people didn't used to drive. And if they don't drive, they don't see the big billboards outside. So, finally, digital. This is one that every single media in Ecuador and in the world is afraid of. Digital advertising. Why? Because it's eating. 15 years ago, there wasn't digital advertising at all. Money was spent around all the other medias. And the worst part is most of that money doesn't stay in Ecuador. It goes to Facebook and to Google. It doesn't stay there. Let me show you first something that I have about a friend who gave me a part of this presentation about what are the most outlets this year of media presentation. Why I'm giving you all this background is because I'm going to talk about it, how to negotiate most of this, or the type of negotiations. In Ecuador, last year, at the same time, well, let's keep going. What's negotiation? Negotiation is a strategy discussion that resolves an issue in a way that both parties find acceptable. In a negotiation, each party tries to persuade the other one to agree with his or her point of view. For a negotiation, at least have to be two sides, at least. By negotiation, all involved parties try to avoid arguing, but agree to reach some form of compromise. One of the most important parts of negotiation is you're going to argue a lot. It's not that easy. Many people think that to sell or to negotiate is easy, and you don't have to study for it. Let me tell you, you have to study a lot. What are type of negotiators? The underprepared negotiator. Which one is that one? The ones who doesn't prepare for a sale and goes to a sale without preparing anything at all. That is, he thinks he has the skill to improvise. And let me tell you, with the years I learned that improvising is the worst thing that you can do for a sale. The anxious negotiator, those who want to, I hate them because you go with them to a sale and they'll tell you, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to sell it. The client is too tough. I'm like, look for another job, please. But those are negotiators too, the anxious one. And sometimes they'll sell the company and their products cheap, which you don't want. The one-sided negotiator. For example, I go to negotiate with a client to sell them TV advertising. And I say for myself something that I know that if I give it to him, he will buy it because he will buy it. It's one of those things that you know that when you give it to the client will say yes automatically. So you know that you have all the power to sell. Those are the one-sided negotiator. I hate those guys too, they call the dominating negotiator. They think that they own the world. They think that they can do anything they want with a client. And sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes clients might like them, sometimes they don't. The under-rehearsed negotiators. What is an under-researched negotiator? When you go to a negotiation as a team, we will see this in the coming slides. When you go as a team to negotiate with some client and you don't rehearse with your team the sale, you have to research your part. Have you ever guys heard the good cop, bad cop? Well, that's a team part. Sometimes your partner or two people in the team play a bad cop or good cop, and you play the good cop, or you are the communicator and you have the other partner be the looker. What are the signals that the clients give you? So it's important to rehearse your position in the sale. What are the types of negotiation? There are 4 types. First one, we have the principal negotiation, which is negotiation is a type of bargain that uses parties, principles, and interests to reach an agreement. That's a normal negotiation. 2 parties, 3 parties, 4 parties, but it's a negotiation between some sides. Normal. Team negotiation, I love those because you don't have to hold all the cards. Your partner in the sale can help you, as I mentioned before, play a part in the selling team. Multi-party negotiation, when you have more than 2 sides. When is this? Sometimes you have to negotiate inside the same company. Oh, good. You have more than one party in your company. Yeah? Say that you have the Department of Business Resources, you have buying, the buying department, and you have human resources. And the three of you guys get into negotiation to some good of the company. Okay? Well, that's a multi-party negotiation. Can you raise your hand if you work in sales? Somebody here works in sales? No?
I used to.
You used to? Where at?
I used to sell academic programs overseas.
Oh, that's cool.
Actually, my ex-partner is there.
Oh. Was it tough?
Yes, because it was the middle of the pandemic. It was September 2020.
But the programs were sold on Zoom, and
Yeah,
how do you sell
All
it?
the sales were managed by oh my god. All the sales were managed by Zoom, but they would have to actually travel, like get on an airplane, and go to study the language.
You know that the worst thing of the pandemic for me is to sell through Zoom or Meet or whatever, because you need to feel the people. You need the signs. You need the looks. You need the, or you need signs from people. Selling or loving or negotiating is a very human response career. And the best advice that I give people who ask me for tips, one of the ones that I will give you ahead is leave your ego and your feelings at the door. I will tell you later more. Types of clients. This is my own list. This is not in books. The clients that you don't know, but you have to be prepared for them. The ones you know, hey, you say hi in the street with them. Probably you, when you were your age, you used to go to nightclubs and bars with them, but not your friends, just people that you know. And your friends. Those are the biggest pain. Because they think that you are a friend, you will give them a better deal than if you're not his friends. But that's part of the business. The ones that tell you the truth, the ones that I like the best, are the ones that you don't know. You don't know, so because it's a challenge, and you have to research them, you have to see what the company wants, you have to see what the chemistry between you and your client will be. Any questions so far? Nope? Okay. How to prepare for a sale? Wow. First of all, know your market. How are you going to know what to sell if you don't know where are you going to sell it? If you don't know your markets, your numbers, if you don't know your shares, if you don't know anything about your product or your service, you're wrong. You have to study your market. Please, people. Second, know your competition. If you don't know who you're against with, you're nobody. I remember once that I went to a client, and I knew the client was the best friend of my competition, the seller of my competition. And so I had to work harder because I knew what he was going to offer, but I needed to beat him to his friend. And one of the things that happened there is I did it. So you have to know your competition. Research the company where you're going to sell. How do you know what to sell and what are their needs if you don't study them? Are you going to sell water to a fire company? No. Are you going to sell, I don't know, plastic bottles to a hot soup company? Probably not. But you have to research them before you go to them, so you don't spend your time just looking at somebody, to your client especially, and he doesn't know why you're there. So you have to research the company. What are their needs? Where are they coming from? How big they are? How small they are? What are they selling? What are their services? All of that is part of your research. research the client. The company might be Coca-Cola, but you have a guy who is your client, the buyer, and you're going to sell him sugar, but the guy you know, he loves rock and roll. So you start a conversation talking about rock and roll. Why? Because you need to build a rapport. You need to build a confidence. You need to be a friendship through sales. If you don't do it, you're one more of the pile. Have a plan. What I mean having a plan. Know where you're going to go. Know how low can you go. Know everything that you want to offer to the clients before you get there. Don't try to make a plan before you when you get there. Try to make the plan before, time ahead. Why? Because the client can eat you up. Clients do this, buy things every day from so many people. So many people. So if you don't have a plan, he will know it, and he will eat you up. Another thing, listen. Please, people, listen. Listen to your client. You might have a plan, but if you get there and he begins to talk to what he needs or what he wants from your product or a form of delivery or whatever, you have to listen to the guy. You have to listen to the girl. You have to listen to all your clients. That's the most important part. You have to listen. Listen. Don't only talk. People think that selling is talk, talk, talk. It's not. It's listen to. Leave your emotions at the door. This is a big one. I said it before. Leave your ego at the door. Why? I cannot count how many times I want to kill my clients. Kill my clients. You begin to think, I want to kill this guy. He tries to know so much. I'm better than him. Why? Why am I talking to this, sorry about the word, asshole? Why? Why he thinks I'm not good enough? Why he doesn't think my product is good enough? Sorry, guys. You have to leave your ego at the door. If you don't leave it, you don't know how many business you're going to miss. And trust me, I have missed a lot of business because of that. That's a part of my life as a negotiator and a seller that I fight every day of my life. My ego and my emotions. Win-win scenario. I don't know if you have heard that word before, that phrase before. Win-win. What's a win-win means? All the clients, they want to win. They want to have the best deal. But you have to show them that you have to earn something, that you cannot sell to lose. You have to sell to win. But at the same time, you have to show the client that he will win buying your product, your service, or whatever you're trying to negotiate with them. And it works in every single part. When the client knows that he's winning and that you're winning, you probably have a 50% chance more that if you don't, that you think you're better than the client and sell him so he will lose, or you only will win. And if the client you lose, you will have problems with your bosses. So, aim high. What I mean with aim high. When you go to a presentation for a sale or a negotiation, don't go with the bottom line of your product price, because the client will always bargain. If you're ever in Korea, if you're ever in Middle East, they bargain everything. In Central America, they will bargain for everything. The only clients that never bargain with me were the Americans. I don't know why. You tell them a price. If they like the product, that they need the product, they will buy in the price. Latin Americans, Asians, as soon as you say the price, they say, how much less can I pay for? Every time. So you cannot go with the bottom line of your price of your product. I like this one. You can tell. Food. Food, a chocolate, anytime, in every situation works. What I mean with this, take your client out. So you build more rapport. When people put the guards down, it's better. Why? Because you begin to have a relationship. You begin to have a relationship with the client. You need a relationship because you don't want to sell a client only once. This client is the client that only buy service or product once from you. If you sell to a client more than once, that's a client that you need to love. Take him out to eat, bring him chocolates, do whatever they want that they feel special with you. Keep your customer delight. What does it mean? Make sure that they know that you know what you're talking about. Make sure that they think that they are important because you did the research that we talked before. Make sure that they know that you work for this account. Make sure that they feel special. Finally, and this is where many of us, negotiator and sales, we miss, is deliver the promise. I can promise you the world, but I don't know if I can deliver it to you. I can promise anything, so you will buy from me. But I said in there, you lose one client because of that. It's not only one client, you lose 10. Every time that you go to a coffee store and you don't like the product or if they treat you bad and the coffee was cold, you don't keep it to yourself. You tell your friends, don't go to the coffee shop because they're bad. So there's 10 people. That's how the research has been done. So there's 10 people that you lose as clients, not only one. Let me see if I can put a video in here finally. We're going to talk about international business. And I want to put some video, if somebody can help me put video on. Okay, there it is. Well, as you could tell from this lady, I'm going to tell you my own story from Japan. I went to Japan for one of those global things for pay TV. Believe it or not, I tried to sell Aquavisa International there, and you almost did it, but I didn't do it. But I went to Japan. My first meeting, the girl who went with me tried to kiss a Japanese guy. The guy was all bending down, and she was trying to kiss it. And I was looking at this like, what the hell? What do I do? And I'm like, please, he doesn't want to be kissed. Just bend over. And she was like, but I want to kiss him. No. And she began, and then when you understand that there is difference between Ecuador and the world. Another thing that happened to me is Americans. Americans are very tough when they're very business-wise. I had to deal a lot with them. I sold 2 networks for 16 years. One was Aquavisa International, and the other one was called, or it is called INTI because it's still alive. INTI is in 16 million homes around the world, and Aquavisa is in, as I mentioned before. But at the beginning, more than 20 years ago, I didn't know how to handle Americans. Actually, I went to school in the US, I went to school in Dayton, Ohio, and I went to school in Boston. So I knew guys from school because I used to hang out with American guys, but I never worked in business with them, so there were a lot different. So it took me a while, but I realized that Americans, they leave the social life at the door of their offices because they want to work and go home as soon as they can, 4 o'clock. That's it. Every time that I used to make appointments, I knew that I had to make appointments between 8 in the morning and 4 o'clock. And I had to have lunch at 12, like a truck driver. Well, it gives you a sense of what I'm telling you here. Success in international business, you have to research the culture. You cannot go to, for example, Saudi Arabia as a girl and not go with a little burqa at least, because they will get offended. I don't understand them, but it's true. You know that you have to bargain with a Korean guy, because Koreans always bargain with you. There's not a deal that you won't bargain with them. Even when they come to Equavis, they used to come to Equavision to buy advertising, they have to bargain all the advertising for LG, let's say, when the Koreans used to live here. So you have to research the country communication style. As I mentioned, no kissing in Japan. Or you have to, the dress code, like I mentioned in Saudi Arabia. The hierarchy. There is some countries that you have to begin to build up to the boss from down up. You cannot go straight to him. So you have to research that. And the time. Ecuadorians, we are the worst with time. We are late to everywhere in the world. Well, that's what I began to understand, that time is precious for most of the cultures. Not to us, but to other cultures, it's very, very precious. Some examples that happen in China with companies that didn't do the research. It's very interesting. For example, Pepsi, the big company, the slogan used to be in the United States, Pepsi brings back to life. When they translated to Chinese, actually they meant they will bring your ancestors back from death. Who will drink Pepsi in China? I don't know. But that's what happens. KFC. In the United States, they use the finger licking good, which in Chinese means eating fingers off. Zombies. Then we have Home Depot. Do it yourself. DIY. What happened to... Is it me? I swear to God, it's not me. Home Depot. DIY. Do it yourself. In Chinese, if you do it yourself, it means you're poor. So let me tell you, Home Depot didn't do it as well. Subway, build your sandwich. In China, they don't like to use their hands to eat food. And they rather eat pasta and rice. They didn't do the research. And they didn't think, for example, that tuna was real tuna. They thought it was fake. McDonald's, this is the good one. Thanks to research, Chinese consumer habits, they got the knowledge to say that chicken was more important in China than beef. So they began to sell more and better chicken sandwich. It was an instant success. So if you don't do the research of the culture, that's what's going to happen. I've been negotiating, as I mentioned before, for the last 25, 26 years of my life. The best advice that I can give to people is do the research in everything that you will do. Leave your ego at the door and be prepared for anything. Questions? Yes, you don't have to know to improvise, but with certain range. Because if you're a seller, you know how low can you go. There is a point that you cannot go lower. You lose a sale, okay, but you don't lose your job. That's very important. Another question. Oh, come on, guys. She will bring you the microphone. No, the microphone. No? No microphone?
How important do you consider having an alternative is? For example, negotiators have badness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how important do you think that having a good badna is?
A what?
A good badna, a good alternative. For example, if you're negotiating and then you know that.
Please. Yes.
Hi, sorry.
Don't worry.
So how important do you think having an alternative is? Like when you go to a negotiation and you know that probably it's not going to happen, do you already have
Why
another?
do you think it's not going to happen?
Because, for example...
You lose it. Before you get into the sales, you're losing
Exactly, that's what I was asking.
No.
Like, if you have... How important do you think it is having another alternative?
You have to have a plan, and you have to have a plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan D. You have to have all the plans. But as I mentioned before, you have to know where to stop. Because clients can be mean. Their job is against yours. They need to spend less money so their boss would clap for them. That's how bad it is. Yes? A mean client. Ooh, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. What a mean client is, the one that when you get to your office, and you know that I hate this, Greta, people are, the buyer is looking to the seller and not looking at you. He's not respecting you. All the efforts that you're doing, whatever you sell, whatever the product is or the service is, you need to have respect. And the client doesn't look at you. The client gives you, listen, I have only 2 minutes for you. And you already spend one saying hi. That's a mean client because he's not respecting you. How to deal with him? There's many ways. One is, listen, if you don't have time right now, I can come back. Look around the office to see if something that you know that he likes. For example, he has a photo of his kid in Disney. How was Disney? They were surprised. How was the trip to Colorado? They were surprised. How did he know that? Or you see that he was listening to the computer. You have to look. As much as you have to listen, you have to look to see something in the office that will give him a way of what he likes. Yes? Invading his privacy? You have to build a rapport with the client. It's impossible not to have a relationship with a client. It's impossible. Why? Because he will not buy from you again. You have to build something. Somehow. That's what I mentioned. Food, chocolate. You have to build a relationship with your client. Till now, 4 years after, or 3.5 years that I quit Equavisa, I still talk to my clients. Last year, 2 years ago, I went to LA. I wasn't working at Equavisa. DirecTV is in LA. And I went to lunch with the guy. The guy who was from Chile, Francisco, and I took him out to lunch just because he became my friend. And we talk about friend things. But that report, it was $20 million a year. So that's when you know you have to be your friends. And for example, something that we did when I founded Radio City, I did a business with Street and Coffee, and I gave them advertising. They gave me coffee and cakes and everything. All the girls who work with me in sales department, all of them put down the birthday of each person in the advertising agencies. And every single one of them received a cake, a happy birthday cake from us. It's in the standard of the industry right now, believe it or not. And this was 20 years ago. Somebody else.
Can you give us some advice on how to make successful negotiations with media?
With media, okay. First of all, you have to know, I'm going to be the client. I'm not going to be the seller. The client needs to know where he wants to go, how much money, what's the budget, and for how long. So the first thing that you have to look at is which media is good for you. Now the frenzy is digital. For example, in the country, outside of Guayaquil, they don't have Facebook. They have radio and some open TV. So this is the first thing that I'll let you know is you know where to advertise. And after that, you have to be very strict with the numbers. How much you're going to get in return of what you put in your money is. And if you're selling media, you have to be really truthful to your client. For example, I tell some radios, I cannot believe you sell radio spots to high-class clients where your radio is only listened by the lower class. Because I think there's a space for everybody. But the first thing as a client is you have to know your numbers, your market, and where to put the money. And as a seller, you have to be, like as I mentioned before, you have to deliver. For example, a client to, let's say, a client who sells products for the farms. It's really dumb to put it in pay TV. Because pay TV is this. It's only 800,000 of homes in Ecuador has pay TV. No, put it in the radio for the farms. And it will work better. Questions? More? Do I have time for that? Let me know when this is finished because you know that can go forever.
Regarding the last question, I
Mm-hmm.
want to know how to know when you have to leave the negotiation with a client that is being really rude. Because
Mm-hmm.
you have to protect also your reputation. You're not going to be the negotiator that goes like a dog after the client.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how are you going to leave it? And what to do, like even you know you don't have to go after that client because it's really disrespectful, it will harm your reputation as not being serious or respectful. You really need that deal.
Okay, let me stop you right there. You're saying that your reputation is never harmed because the client is mean. His reputation is the one who is harmed.
Between them, they're going to say, hey, I treat her like this, and he was after me, and like he doesn't have respect.
To tell you the truth, it never happened to me. I know mean clients that I have a good relation with them. But the sellers in Ecuador, and I don't know why, most of the sellers in Ecuador in media, for example, are girls. Girls. And I've been hearing for girls that are my friends that some clients are mean. And they try to just pursue them. But you don't pursue it as a dog, as you mentioned. You try to pursue it in a professional way. Sending emails. I have some rules, for example, for me selling. I never call a client to their solo phone because I think that it's private. I always send them a text. Can I call you? I send you the presentation. And I don't think they can be more rude than they already did in presence. If some client is rude in presence, I'll say, and is really vulgar, what I will say is, listen, I don't deserve this. You don't owe me, and I'm going to stand up and leave. And I'm going to send a letter to my boss telling me what happened here. Because sometimes, I heard before too, is the client will call the bosses. It happened to a friend of mine. And he said, listen, your seller was really, really rude. And he was the one who was rude. What is done in the industry is just switch the sellers. You put another seller. Maybe if it was a girl before, you put a guy. Or it was a guy before, you put a girl. Or another girl or another guy. Whatever it works. And if only you what I would do is I'll tell my boss, you handle it. But you will never lose the respect. Even if they talk among each other, they will never lose the respect because you're doing your job. You're not doing something that is degrading. You're just doing your job.
So I actually have two questions. My first question is, what type of negotiator do you identify as? And my second question is, when you investigate a client and you realize that your type of negotiation might not be the best, mode to go to a negotiation, do you switch your negotiation mode, or do
Yes.
you have like a co-partner that helps you?
No. What type of negotiator that I relate to? Ooh, I'm a very anxious one. Very anxious one. Like somebody here said, no, listen, when you go to a client and the client, you know that it's not going to be the sale. No, you have to be positive. And second of all, you have to be chameleonic in this business, negotiating. If you know that the client is visual, you do this. When you know the client is not visual, he likes to talk. Actually, I have a client who talks for an hour and a half always that I go to visit her. Hour and a half, and I'll let you know who is tomorrow. You have to know that she is not visual, she likes to talk. So you have to be prepared for all the answers that you don't put in there to have it in your mind. And you cannot sell bread to everybody in the industry that I am, because everybody doesn't like white bread. Some people like sweet bread, some people like baguettes, some people like croissant. So you have to give them what they want.
You mentioned the good cop, bad cop tactic. What other tactics do you usually use?
Oof. You have to be really resourceful. You have to understand that I have friends who use pity. Oh, my mother is sick. I need this sale. I heard that before. I'm going to send my kid to college. I need to close this sale. People do that. Between you and me, whatever I have to sell that doesn't go against my values.
Would you be capable of selling something that harms someone's health?
No.
For example, McDonald's, like, it's really not healthy.
But I thought you were talking about more like selling guns. McDonald's, yeah. But no, selling guns, for example, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that. What else is harmful? Whatever is harmful to people, drugs, yeah. Well, yeah, no. Yeah, but not something that is harmful to people.
Negotiator or a distributive negotiator?
A what?
You're more an integrative negotiator or a distributive negotiator?
Ooh, I think I'm part of both.
Because the bad cop, good cop is horrible tactics. So yeah.
It's horrible?
Yeah, that's not
Why?
horrible. Because you're.
But I mean, you don't go to a client and one is bad and try to push the guy. No.
I know.
It's that, for example, you go to a client with your.
I know.
And you say, I cannot put the price down, and the other guy say, listen, this is a nice guy. Let's come down to a price. Yeah, but it's not bad. It's not bad to do that. No, it's not bad. Like I said before, use whatever it worked for you that doesn't go against your values of a person. But I said again, do your research, have a plan, do all the things that I explained there because you're gonna need them. If you wanna do a good sale and clients respect when you prepare. They respect that a lot because you're important for them. They think that they're important to you.
Actually, I just wanted to know.
This is the first guy. Come on. Give a round of applause. The first guy to ask. Only girls.
I just wanted to know what is your relationship between the other negotiations that you have? For example, it's dependent, interdependent, or or you depend between each other, for example?
Between what?
Between both each other, so between you and the other negotiator. Interdependent, exactly.
To tell you the truth, I cannot understand your question.
I just wanted to know, for example, what is the most common relationship you have between your negotiators, between you and the other
clients?
Yeah.
When I used to work abroad in US and Latin America, Europe, Asia, whatever, most of those clients, you used to have a big relationship with them because there's always a lunch and a dinner between them. For example, Spaniards, after they begin to drink at 12 o'clock in the morning, then you take to lunch at 2 o'clock, then they go some places, then take the siesta, lucky them, and after that, you begin to build a relationship. For example, whenever I go to Spain, I have a client, they used to be a long-time client with a cable operation, and actually last time I went to Spain, I stayed at his house. That's how close you can have a relationship with friends. One of my good friends here in Ecuador, who is a seller for media, he is the best person that I know to build relationships. Whenever I want something with somebody, I call him up. I do a research through him. Hey, listen, for example, the general manager or the marketing manager of that bank, what does he want? What does he like? How does he likes? So I know when I come to the meeting that I have some tools to begin a relationship. Who depends on me? The client? The client doesn't depend on me because I'm not the only option.
That's my question. That's what I'm asking for. It's, for example, I don't know. Let's put an example. Like you sells blocks, like for building a house, and the other one is like a construction client. Mm-hmm. For example, you both need each other, mm-hmm. or they depend on you, or you depend on him.
Most of the time, I depend on the client to make money. They don't depend on me because in the field that I work, there's many options. As I mentioned before, there's 14 types of advertising. And for example, in radio stations that I'm working right now, you have more than 800 radio stations in Ecuador. So it's a lot. Yes. It goes with the flow. It goes with the flow. They actually, most of the time, believe it or not, I'm the one who said, listen, let's talk about business. Because they can talk for hours. When they become your friend, they can talk for hours. And I'm like, the time is ticking, and he probably have to leave. So I'm the one who says, let's talk about business. Always. Always. I always begin with the relationship part, and then through business. When I go to a client that I know already. When I don't know them, I try to build that relationship. Somehow, you cannot go to all your clients and be like, hey, what's up, buddy? How are you? No. There's some clients, hey, nice to meeting you. You sit down and you begin this. And then you begin to build a rapport. Next meeting might be different.
And what happens if you're trying to create a relationship and clients stick to business?
I stick to business. No. Remember, this is a very human work. I work with people. And sometimes you have a good day, sometimes you have a bad day. Sometimes I have a good day, sometimes I have a bad day. Sometimes, for example, a client, his daughter is sick, or his mom passed away 2 days ago, or her mom is, I don't know, whatever. So you have to read to people. You have to read how they work with you.
I have one question. We were talking a lot about the business and selling, but if you have an experience on politics or some sort of social agreements, does the formula differs and changes? How do you approach these types of agreements?
Selling is selling. Only whatever change is the research and the plan. Your taxes are the same because you're selling a service, you're selling. I deal now with everyday politics with Greta and in our show. But it's the same. If you want to send something to a politic, you have to do your research, you have to show them. Actually, politics are more eager for information. Don't give them all. If you don't sign anything, don't give them all. Because you don't know if they go to another person for advertising.
Hi.
You're going to do a question.
Yeah.
I thought you was going to end it.
Can you tell us your most successful experience while negotiating?
DirecTV.
How was it?
Oof, it took me a year. 2007. Los Angeles, California. El Segundo. It's next to the LAX airport. And I've been working with this guy. Before my friend worked there, this guy was from Argentina. And I've been calling him. I've been trying to reach him. Mails call. And there we were the first Ecuadorian network. And as you know, there's a lot of immigrants in U.S. from Ecuador. Bless you. He called me once and said, "Can you be tomorrow in LA?" When he said that, yes, I was in Ecuador. When he said that, it's like I won the lottery. Because so much effort that I was put onto this, and we were going to be the first network to be in DirecTV US. So it was sweet. You cannot believe. When I got there, he said, listen, let's begin the deal. The contract will take 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks we'll sign. What satellite are you going to be, and blah, blah, blah. And so I said, yes. It's just a good feeling. It's just when you get a 10 out of 10 in a test, but 100 times better. One more guy? No? No? More questions? No? Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure being here. Ahora sí puedo hablar en español.
Thank you, Mr. Hidalgo, for coming. It was a pleasure to have you here at US, and we hope to see you soon. And thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We have learned a lot about his knowledge, and stay tuned for the second edition of Speakers Lineup.
Si pueden venir todos al frente para una foto y hablan español, por favor, sería chéverísimo para tomar foto con Guillermo Hidalgo.